I gotta find my hammer. Good evening. We're about to start this meeting of 21st. I knew that. Before we do, I'm going to stand for a moment of silence and follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance to our country's flag. Anyone who feels would like to join me, please feel free to do so. Well, as usual, before we get started, let me read my opening statement. I do it every week just in case there's someone that hasn't been here before. Good evening to everyone. I'd like to welcome you here this evening to the business meeting of the Sumner County Board of Education. Before we get started on our agenda tonight, I want to do a little housekeeping and be sure that everyone here is still all on the same page. As previously mentioned, this is a business meeting of the Sumner County Board of Education. The public is not only welcome, but invited to be our guest at any meeting. We're here tonight to conduct the business that is on our agenda, and that is exactly what we're going to do. In the past, the chair has requested that all who are present adhere to the rules and follow proper decorum, but this has been an issue to some who decide that they don't want to follow the rules. Those rules include, but not limited to, no applause during the meeting, no outbursts, willfully making noise that is distracting to the podium or board members, yielding to the chair, not yielding to the chair when called to do so. I was elected by a majority of my peers on the board to chair the meetings and to see that our job gets done, and I intend to fulfill my duties. If disruptions break out, you put the chair in a position that I prefer not to be in, but we'll face it head on. The chair has several things that can be done in this case. The meeting can be recessed for 10 minutes, 10 days, or as long as the chair feels it necessary. The chair can adjourn the meeting, and this meeting will be over. The chair can have the disruptor or disruptors removed from the meeting, or the chair can clear the room completely. I prefer to have a very respectful meeting and not to have to deal with any of this, but I'm prepared to do so if necessary, and there will be no warnings. This is your warning. I wish none of this. I wish only to have a productive meeting that all of you here simply respecting and obeying the rules. During the recognition of public, all comments are to be made directly to the chairman. You cannot call out any board member, school district employee, or other members of the public by name. Inflammatory, disruptive, or vulgar language that in the opinion of the chairman is intended to elicit a reaction from the crowd will not be tolerated. If these rules are not followed, the microphone will be cut off and the speaker will be instructed to take a seat. I thank you in advance for being a well-behaved guest, and with that, the first item on our agenda is called to order. So we are called to order. The second item is roll call. Mr. Johnson, do you have the roll? Everyone's here. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of the regular agenda. Approval of regular agenda is presented. Is there a motion? Motion by Ms. Hayes, second by Ms. Andrews. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Mr. Daniels. Second by Ms. Hayes. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like...
I've got Mr. Lancaster's light here.
Okay.
Sorry. I just got one question on it, and I meant to send this to Ms. Brown before the meeting, but I completely forgot. But do we know, when was the last time the teacher supplement amount was updated or changed, or does anybody know? I've gotten asked that question from some teachers that do various things. Yeah, the stipend amount, the $400. Is that a state law that's what it is, or is that district policy, or?
I will have to defer all those questions to Ms. Brown. You were asking the communications person a finance question, so.
I mean, you know everything. That's why I thought you might know.
And I would know this if I had asked her before we got here.
Yeah,
but, I just repeat what other people tell me. So, but we'll be happy to get her to answer that and send everybody an email.
That's just, like I say, I've had some questions on that in the past, and I just wanted to touch base with those people.
Mr. Lancaster, Mr. King.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to remove under bids and purchases, item number 16, which is the early literacy grant for the company's school kids. It was my understanding that we were going to, I requested that that would be moved to a study session. And so I would like to make that request now. I'd like to remove that from the consent agenda and to postpone to a study session.
Second.
I don't see where you're at, Mr. King.
Under bids and purchases, item number 16.
You gotta give me the bids and purchases first.
I'm sorry, under item 3, bids and purchases. Item number 16.
All right, we have a motion and a second to move item number 16 from number 3. We would move it to new business.
Well, I'd like to move that to a study session.
Okay. Ms. Brown is not here. Is there a time limit? Does anybody know if there's a time limit on that?
So this is the item, I believe this is the item we emailed everybody about.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the second year of hang on, let me pull that email up. It's the second year of a 2-year contract that the board has already signed, and there is a deadline under the state grants that we have to approve it and invoice it by the end of this month, otherwise we don't get the reimbursement. And so we attempted to give everybody kind of an answer to Mr. King's questions through an email because we've got that deadline that we're bumping up on.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second to remove that to the next study session. Is there any discussion? Mr. Graham?
So if we don't approve this, we don't get reimbursed?
That is my understanding, but once again, communication director answering finance questions. So,
Mr. Graham, that's what I understood in the email that we got. All right. Seeing no other discussion, all in favor to move it to a study session, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no? No. I think the noes have it.
yeah, may I see you show of hands on the yeses so I can get the minutes right? Okay, awesome.
All right, we're back to the main motion of approval of the consent agenda. We have a motion and a second. Any further on that? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries.
I oppose.
Okay. Got that, yeah. Next item on the agenda, well, I'm scrolling down here, I got lost there, Mr. King. Next item on the agenda is consideration of minutes, discussion and interaction regarding the minutes of the February 21st meeting. Motion approved by Mr. Wise, second by Mr. Gregory. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is recognition of delegation of recognition/hearing of delegations. My tongue's not wanting to work tonight. First person is Amy LaSurf, wanting to speak on Director of School Interviews. Would give your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak on an agenda item.
Sure. My name's that's loud. My name's Amy LaSurf, and I live at 220 Evergreen Circle in Hendersonville. I'm just going to read this because I'm not a public speaker. So I come before you tonight to speak about the interviews for the director position. I'm respectfully asking that you consider all candidates that have applied that have met the qualifications set forth by this board. If this board, I'm trusting that they want to find the best of the best for the director. So in my mind, there's zero justification for denying anybody that has the qualifications that you've set forth. And that's really all I have to say. I just respectfully ask that you include everybody in your interviews. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LaSurf. Next is Joanna Daniels. You want to speak on math textbooks on the consent agenda. Ms. Daniels?
Hi, Joanna Daniels, Hendersonville, Tennessee, and I'm also I forgot to put the directors on there as well. So I wanted to speak on the math adoption and, Eureka and iReady. To my knowledge, I found out that Eureka actually was not the first pick for elementary school, and also have a very big concern with Eureka because it is Great Minds, which is wit and wisdom. And the problem with that is that, as you know, there's been a lot of controversy around wit and wisdom. It's continuing, and I think that there's even our textbook commission at Tennessee level is even looking at the curriculum textbooks in Wit and Wisdom. And so Great Minds being the publisher of Wit and Wisdom, and now us considering something with Eureka, and I don't feel that that's really something that would look good for us to do that. Plus, I'm sure you guys know, because you're the school board, that we are the pilot county for the Wit and Wisdom curriculum, and so that's there's a whole lot of great minds going on here in Sumner County, and so I would encourage you to look at a different math curriculum outside of Eureka. Also, Eureka and iReady, they are partnered with Castle. And I don't know if you've looked into Castle, but Castle has a lot of social emotional learning. They have a whole lot of CRT in it. And a lot of the stuff that Castle has is actually not in alignment with Tennessee. And, I would be cautious with going with a company that is partnering with another company that honestly creates curriculum that is not even acceptable here in the state of Tennessee. And they said that well, we created curriculum specifically for Tennessee. Well, I mean, when you have a mission statement as a company, that's going to get somewhere in there somehow. But also, if you don't agree with all the stuff that this company is doing, then why give them your money? Why not look for something such as a classical, math, curriculum that you can support the whole company. So I don't know if you looked into Castle. And then also, with the consent agenda, I was very discouraged about the school kit, because I was here in February and I remember Mr. Langford saying that there was no rush in adopting school kit, that we could definitely take it to a study session, that it could be something that could be looked at, there was no rush at all. And then to hear tonight that there was an email saying that oh, there's a rush, when in a public forum, there was told there was no rush and this could go to a study session, which I was looking forward to because Mr. King brought it to my attention, and I did go and take a look at school kit and was very surprised at some of the stuff that is on there. So it is very disappointing that there was conflicting information there. And then also the ESSER funds. I saw on there that there's a hiring of a teacher position, and to my knowledge, ESSER funds were not supposed to have reoccurring costs. And I think hiring a position and hiring another teacher is a reoccurring cost unless you're going to fire that teacher after 2024 when the funds run out. But maybe I'm misunderstanding. And then lastly, as far as the director search, I just, I was watching online the meeting last week or 2 weeks ago, and I was very disappointed in only one person, and I was so excited that you guys opened it up, and I so appreciated Chairman Brewer for you, stating and saying, hey, let's open it up, and for you guys agreeing. So I do hope that you guys do allow all people who are eligible to be in this selection. So I appreciate you guys considering that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Daniels. Next one is Holly Cruz, dress code, director of schools, candidate interview. Ms. Cruz, please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Holly Cruz, 3275 Hartsville Pike, Castellian Springs. I'm here to talk about the dress code committee first and the dress code that hopefully you're going to approve this evening. I am one of the parents who was afforded the opportunity to be a part of the committee, and I would just like to say thank you for allowing parents to be a part of it. Thank you to Ms. Skinner for leading that. It was nice to be able to meet some administrators and other teachers in the county. I have just a couple of things that I am hoping that you all will consider taking a look at on the draft policy that's currently in front of you. And I'm hoping that maybe Ms. Skinner can maybe address them if I'm asking something that she has already addressed or explained. On page number 2, under bullet point or number 4, it says under students cannot wear. Under the first 2 bullet points, it does not explicitly state under like images that can be listed or images displayed on clothing of violence. It doesn't include weapons specifically, and a parent did bring that to my attention, and that wasn't something that I believe we discussed during the review. And so I was maybe wanting to point that out to say that maybe weapons should be listed as something that should be excluded from images that students should wear. Just something that I would like for you to consider this evening. Also on that same number 4, students cannot wear. On the last bullet point, it makes, it says students cannot wear items that cover any part of the face, and it has except for religious or medical reasons. And then in the list after it, sorry, I'm just pulling it up so I can make sure that I'm reading it correctly. It says examples include but are not limited to medical masks, bandanas, and hoods. And I think medical masks, is that I'm confused as to whether that's something that isn't allowed or is allowed, because to me, medical masks seem like something that would be a medical reason. So I was thinking that that maybe should be clarified on if as something that should or should not be worn. I'm hoping that masks, medical masks for a reason, I'm hoping that would be something that would be allowed. So just maybe clarifying that language as well on that bullet point. Sorry. I also would like to maybe recommend adding that this policy is going to be reviewed. I know that it has been a long time since the dress code policies have been reviewed, and I was hoping that maybe there could be something added stating that it could be reviewed every 3 to 5 years or within some time frame, so that way it's not such a long period of time between the dress codes being reviewed. So we can address items, changes in fashion, and other items. I also hope that you took a look at the parent, teacher, and student comments. Those were all handed out to you the last time. We were able, as part of the committee, were able to look through those comments, and I would just like to make note of a couple of things as coming again as a parent representative on that committee and a parent in the community. There were a couple of parent comments that I would like to bring attention to in hopes that maybe you can consider addressing them with your constituents either now or at a later date. But there were some comments made about sports, and I know that wasn't to be included in this dress code policy, but I do recommend that you as school board members consider reviewing sports policies relating to physical appearance. It is a item that members of our community are concerned about, and I do believe that it is something that our county should address. I know, again, it's not part of this dress code committee, but I do recommend, based off parent comments, that it's something that's considered. Also, again, I know a lot of parents said that it was very focused on females, and I am raising 2 daughters, and so I would just like to say many people are very appreciative. Oh, is that my time? Okay, very appreciative of the updates, and I know that most of the community is very happy with it. But I would just like to say to be members of the community and members of the school board to hope that we can sometime get to a point where it's not so focused on females and what they are wearing. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz. Next is Charlena Allmiller. Ms. Allmiller, come on down. New Business Director of Schools. State your name and address for the record. You'll have 5 minutes.
Hi, I'm Charlene Allmiller, and I live in Hendersonville, Tennessee. I am here to speak about the Director of Schools, but I'm also going to address the math curriculum because I was on that committee. For the Director search, like all of you, I apologize, I was not here at the last meeting just due to scheduling conflicts, but for the Director search, like you, I was surprised that there was only one candidate that was brought forward. I thank TSBA for doing their job because I think sifting through a bunch of candidates is probably pretty hard, and I do think that it is important to look at not just the resume, but information that's outside of the resume, because if you're only going to look at what they're going to present to you, then you're going to be pretty surprised if you hire them based on just what they told you. Now, having said that, I do agree that you should interview more than one candidate, because I think that there's a level of competition that can be helpful in making sure that you're getting the best candidate. And I mean, if Dr. Langford is the right candidate, I'm sure that he will shine through regardless. Now, I do understand that Dr. Cash applied late. There's questions about rumors. I personally believe that any rumors about bias have not been from anybody that is supporting any candidate that's already in the pool. This has become a very contentious application process, and so it makes perfect sense that people would not want to apply here and come to a job where they're going to be attacked probably every day by one side or the other. So if we can come together and try to find somebody that is going to be in the best interest of our schools, as a parent who has kids in the schools, I would greatly appreciate that. And ask the tough questions. Ask them, I mean, Bradley County has the same, similar scores as ours. So what are people going to do to increase the scores? What is the plan? Because everybody, Dr. Cash has had the opportunity, so why didn't she do it there if she was going to do it here? And then I also found it interesting that she had she started a STEM program that was very similar to what was going to happen at the Comer Barn. And so I just don't know where that would all come to play on funding, if she has ideas, and then whether she would get funding. And so there's just a lot of parts to consider, and I don't envy your job. As far as the math curriculum committee, I am a parent who has 2 kids in the schools. I'm just scheduled to defend my dissertation in order to teach statistics and accounting at the college level. And so when I heard the math curriculum committee was looking on math curriculum this year, my heart leapt, and I asked my representative, Ms. Hayes, if I would be able to get on that committee, and I was. I was here for the interviews with all of the vendors, and the Eureka company was in here. And as somebody with K through 3rd, their presentation was very good. And this is coming from a parent who had got to teach math the new way in kindergarten during COVID, so that was not fun. And so some of my questions were, what are the resources available for parents if whatever happens that we're at home again, how are we going to be able to teach the kids? And I think something that was very, that I didn't realize is that the K through 3rd versus the upper grades, there's an issue with the reading aspects, of just being able to read. If you can't read the problem, how are you going to be able to understand it? And so I think there was the 5th grade teachers that were there maybe had different concerns than the 1st grade teachers there. So we had to kind of divide up there too to see which one was addressing all of those issues. But I will say that, and I did miss the last meeting and this last board meeting because I was sick and I didn't want to get anybody else sick and send it to the schools. And and plus I'm just a parent. I'm not going to know anything the teachers aren't going to know, okay? So I would say that I at no point in time heard that Eureka was not one of the top contenders, and there were a lot of people. I was very impressed, and I was like, where were they whenever it was kindergarten? My only question for them was, and my concern was, is because with as far as the pilot for Wit and Wisdom, we were the pilot in 2018, and then the whole state approved it as an acceptable curriculum. This curriculum committee for math and all of the curriculum committees go through a year-long process. Okay, so it's not something the state approves it. They make sure that everything is meeting the standards that are set, and all the math standards have changed, and that's why all the curriculum had to be set up. I'm sure you guys already heard this though, but I liked Eureka, and I hope that you do approve it as somebody who has kids in the school and was thankful to see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allmiller. All right, next item on the agenda is reports from the director. He's not here right now, so we'll move on to Cade Hickson from Merrill Hyde Magnet School.
Okay.
Ms. Hayes.
Come on up. You come right up here. I have the honor of introducing and recognizing this phenomenal young man, Cade Hickson. He is a Merrill Hyde Magnet School senior. I have all the little points here, Darren sent over. He's a senior, a state champion swimmer in the 100-meter breaststroke. 4-year state qualifier in multiple events. He holds every single individual school record for swimming in all events. That is impressive. He's a 4.0 student. Hey, it gets better. 4.0 student. He exemplifies a well-rounded student. This is the epitome of a student athlete. Volunteers at the vet clinic, teaches younger swimmers at his swim club, and is quite talented in crochet. Cade is going to attend Queen's University in Charlotte, North Carolina this fall, and he will be swimming competitively on the college level. So quite impressive. His parents, your daddy's name, Amy and Jeff Hickson, y'all come on up. We'll get a picture. I was sharing with Cade that our youngest son, well, our oldest and our youngest, were competitive swimmers. And our youngest son, Caleb, was a breaststroker. So it's just it's beautiful. It's just beauty in motion in the water. So just congratulations, and we're so proud of you. You represent the best of the best in Sumner County. And your parents, I know, are proud. So proud. Amy and Jeff. You step right up here. Here. Okay. Oh, Amy. Precious son. No, I'm never showing pictures.
My microphone on. Next item on the is new business, discussion or action regarding selection director of schools candidate interview finalists. Mr. Daniels, I believe.
I would like to make a motion that we offer an interview to all 9 candidates, I believe, that met the search criteria and deadline approved by this board.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded by Mr. Wise. Any discussion, Mr. Lancaster?
Yeah, I would like to amend that motion and include all candidates that meet the qualifications regardless of the deadline.
Motion been made to amend. Is there a second on the amendment? Mr. Lacy. I believe we have to come back to you and make sure that you allow the amendment. Is that?
I believe there's going to be discussion on the amendment in the vote.
Okay, yeah, let's discuss the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment itself of allowing all the members to? That's all, Mr. Graham first.
Sorry.
Can we get a definition of who all the candidates who qualify are?
Mr. Johnson?
Okay, so all the candidates who qualified by the deadline, my understanding is Teresa Anderson, Kim Barnum, Randy Days, Jerry Gibson, Jesse Jackson, Scott Langford, Scott Paul, John Tucker, and Danny Weeks. And then Mr. Lancaster's motion, as I understand it, would extend to Ms. Harrison and Dr. Cash. Mr. Lancaster?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I mean, oh,
So you made the motion. We're discussing.
right. So, I guess my question is, and, you know, I don't necessarily think we need to, you know, interview everybody, but if that's what you guys want to do, that's, you know, I'm happy to do that. I was, you know, had more of a streamlined finalist in mind, or set of finalists in mind, but I really find it concerning, for lack of a better term, that a candidate of the quality of Dr. Cash would not be considered. She's, of course, the director of schools for Bradley County and has been since 2014. She's a 35-year career in education. 15 of those were right here in Sumner County as both teacher and principal. She's chair of the textbook commission, and I lost count of how many teachers, counselors, former staff members that reached out to me and said, hey, I worked with her, I love her to death, please interview her. I understand the timeline situation that she's, you know, sent us and told us about, but in my mind, I believe she deserves to be interviewed, and I think our county deserves to hear from her. I know you know, this is a different world than the business world. I know if a quality candidate, the best, you know, one of the strongest candidates applied, even if it was after the deadline, and it was a person that could make my company money or grow our company or business, and I said, well, you know, it was, you know, a few days after our deadline hit, so I just didn't want to listen to her or him. You know, that would not bode well for me in the future if you know, that person went somewhere else and did great things. And on top of all of that, I've tried to be as transparent as possible in this process. I created a survey. I'm sure most of y'all saw it. I sent it to everyone on the board. And I just asked the question to the people. Here are the candidates. Created simple little pros and cons for everybody. Said, you know, this is based on their resume. This is what their background is. Had 500, and as of noon today, I haven't checked in a while, but as of noon today, I had 575 people that responded to it, and 67% of those wanted us to interview Dr. Cash. So, you know, I want to listen to her. You know, she told us that in her email that she was hesitant to apply based on a rumor, a theory, or whatever, that this was just a formality and the director had already been chosen. You know, and now we've got people saying, well, this person is the one that is the cause of that, or that person, or this group, or that group. Again, at the end of the day, I just want to listen to the best candidates we can possibly listen to and hire the best candidate we could possibly hire. And if we're going to bring in 9 people and sit through 9 interviews, what difference does it make if we listen to 1 more or 2 more? The one person that was a finalist and withdrew her consideration used that same, I reached out to ask her, like, why did you decide to, back out? We've had a candidate apply late, said this was the reason that she did, and she responded today saying, well, yes, that, I was aware of that rumor, and that factored into my decision. So, and I sent that all to you guys as well today. So, like I say, I think that the community, the teachers, and the parents want to see that we're doing the best we can do to get the best candidate. The majority of people that respond to me have said, I don't care when she applied, if she applied late, if she has a valid reason, which I believe she does. I've read an article last night where the local media there in Bradley County had said, the rumor's already out that Dr. Cash has applied for our position and she might be leaving. And, there's, of course, the reaction to that. A lot of people were upset. A lot of people were happy for her, happy, or worried about what might happen there. So you don't, I understand if you don't think you've got a legitimate, if you don't think the process is legitimate, whether there's a reason to believe that or not, I can understand being hesitant if you're in her position. And I think that's what we need to do is if we're going to look at 9, then why would we not look at 11?
Ms. Lancaster, Ms. Hawkins?
Thank you, Chairman Brewer. When I woke up this morning, I was fully ready to recommend that Dr. Cash be considered as a viable candidate. This afternoon, I received the legal opinion from our counsel regarding this matter, and pursuant to that, I cannot recommend that for reasons that he gave. So I'm very disappointed that this has come out like it did. I'm disappointed in the way she chose to apply, because I think she would be an excellent candidate, but because of the opinion from our attorney on this matter, having spent most of my adult life working in a law office as a paralegal, I feel like we need to follow the advice of our attorney. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Yeah, I'm just thinking along those lines. I have the email here from our board attorney, and he really didn't say that we were out of our scope of what we are allowed to do as a board. We are within our authority, our policy to interview Dr. Cash. Now, he did make some statements like, well, there's perhaps some risk, or it could be scrutinized, but I think everything we do has some risk and it can be scrutinized. We could get a lawsuit on something we voted on earlier. I mean, there's to me that is a weak, just a weak way to go here legally. I don't see a risk involved in this, and not only that, he mentioned in here that that there's risk if we're going to deviate from the original process. Well, we've already done that. We have deviated. Tonight we're supposed to be interviewing candidates tonight. And he made a mention in here about how we have to, we didn't announce that publicly. We made announcements publicly. We have to follow it. Well, we're not. We're not following it. We're deviating from that. And if we're going to talk about deadlines, well, we have deadlines. Tonight was a deadline that we're going to break. We have a deadline to offer a contract on April 3rd, and we have another deadline to offer the position and make an appointment on April 4th. All of those are going to be pushed back. They're all going to be violated. And so to make her case, the only reason, since we're already changing deadlines, I don't see a reason why there should be I think it's foolish for us to bind ourselves as a board to an arbitrary deadline that did not produce a competitive field of candidates. I don't think there's a legal risk. I really don't. I think this is him trying to cover himself in his opinion. I think that we are within our scope to interview Dr. Cash. I also want to bring up something that's, there was a lot of discussion about process, that we're deviating from our process if we were to allow this candidate. But I want to point out that our process involved the TSBA, their recommendation, their process, and according to them, and they declared to us in our study session that the process is still open-ended. From their comments directly stated that this, and if they're the ones that we're adhering to for process, that also includes allowing us to bring in other candidates to the table beyond their involvement. In fact, let me quote what she said. She said in an email March 13th that we are confident that you have the resources to complete your own screening of additional candidates. In our last study session, Dr. Grissom also said, so if you, and I quote, so if you have candidates that you think would make a great superintendent, then this board should interview them. Now, was she in some violation of our policies to advise us in that way? I don't think so, and that's why I would reconsider Ms. Hawkins, because I don't see a risk in what our board attorney sent us. I mean, he basically he said that we are within our powers to do this, to have another candidate, and there's nothing. I mean, as far as I know, our policy gives us the authority to hire whoever we choose. I do think that, there's been a lot of talk about what we want, the best candidate, we want the best person. I know that parents, teachers, like Alan, I've had numerous people tell me that they would like the best person for the job. A lot of people spoke very highly of Dr. Cash. I think the way that we go about it as a board, the way that we achieve getting the best, is to offer our community a competitive field of candidates. I think it is our duty as board members to bring that to the table on behalf of our citizens, on behalf of parents, teachers, students, and our citizens. And right now with these candidates, I think we have some strong ones in the pool. I think with Dr. Cash, I think we have a very impressive competitive field of candidates, and I think we should be thankful for that. There was a lot of discussion about this diminishing pool of candidates that were out there, and talk about how people don't want the job. In fact, Tammy Grissom said, oh, there's people that don't want this job. Well, we've got people that want the job. We've got some, and those are tremendous odds to overcome, but here we are, we have managed to pull these folks together who are interested, and we have some of the best in the state wanting this job, including Dr. Cash. And I think they deserve an interview, and I think we owe that, we owe Sumner County the opportunity to hear from each one of these qualified candidates. Again, offering a competitive field, I feel, is the best way to find the best person for the job. It's a way to bring integrity to the process. If we don't have competition, we're not going to truly know whether or not we have the best. We're just not going to know. And, I'm not interested in the arbitrary deadline that the TSBA outlined for us. To me, we've had to pivot, and we've had to deviate from our plan. We've had to move on. We've got to put that behind us. This is now on us, the board, to do this work. We are the process now, and we are the ones who are going to make the decision. And we need qualified people. And if we have people coming to us, and I mean immensely qualified people coming to us, who are willing to pursue this role, that's a blessing. That's a blessing to me. We should be thankful. And how can we turn them away? How can we turn away people that are qualified? How can we do that to our students? This is one thing that we can do. We have an opportunity here as a board, and I'm speaking to all my fellow board members right now. We don't always agree, but on this we can agree. We can agree to provide our community with a competitive field of candidates. And I believe we can, that includes Dr. Cash. We can do this unanimously with one voice. We can say unanimously, we are going to present these candidates and give to our community what they deserve. Our community, our students, our teachers, staff, Sumner County citizens deserve a competitive field of candidates. Let's do that. I'm hoping our board will rally behind this and not give much, not worry about. I understand what was sent to us today. I'm not worried about it. I don't think there's much risk, but I think we can come together and present every qualified candidate that applied for this position and give our community this field of candidates. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Graham?
Yeah, so along the lines of what Mr. King said, we got an email today from our attorney. I'm sad he's not here because I had a lot of questions for him to follow up. But in essence, he sent us a state statute that said that the school board shall adopt a written policy regarding the method of accepting and reviewing applications. Where is that written policy? We don't have a written policy. We have a brochure. We have a brochure that was created by TSBA. So if we're talking about being opened up to legal scrutiny, that ship's already sailed. We've already not done what we were supposed to do according to Tennessee Codes Annotated. So I think that we should start over and do this the right way. I think we need a written policy. I think we need to open up the applications, as Mr. Presnell said, because that was one of the options he gave us. He said, you guys can basically start over. You can open up a window for applications with a timeline. For anyone who wants to apply, they can apply now. And, we had a really good conversation 2 weeks ago about the process that TSBA did in vetting candidates. And I was told we could Google. And so how hard is that for anybody who applies in addition to these candidates that were so-called vetted through TSBA? Furthermore, when Mr. Presnell continued to give us this verbiage, he kept interchanging the word policy with procedure. Policy and procedure are two different things. So we have a written procedure because that's what's on a flyer. We don't have a written policy. So I don't see, I think we're negligent if we don't start from the ground up and do this the right way as prescribed by TCA. I saw a pretty good quote. It said, we shouldn't have a petty adherence to the process. And that's what we're doing if we don't do this the right way. Me personally, I wouldn't have offered an interview to every candidate. I mean, I've read all the applications. I know some of them are coming from pretty far away, and if we're not going to seriously consider them, and the only way I think we would know if we're seriously considering them is if we discuss them before we offer an interview, and not just lump them all together. I think when we talk about who's qualified, who's not qualified, who's been vetted, who's not been vetted, and then we just do an up and down vote on all candidates without any discussion, I don't think that's going to sit very well either. I think both Dr. Cash and Dr. Harrison deserve interviews. Dr. Cash's resume, the public hasn't been able to see it. They've not been able to see all the accolades that we see. But when we sit here and we talk about that, nobody wants these positions, and public education is under attack, and we get good applicants, but then one comes in right at the end, even though we had a TSVA deadline. Once again, there's no written policy. We don't have a board policy. We don't have a board deadline. And she is phenomenal. Then we should consider an interview. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about offering an interview. We're not talking about hiring the lady. We're talking about a simple interview. And if you got issues of why she applied late, ask her that in the interview. Press her on that question. As one of our speakers said, ask the hard questions. Dr. Harrison has decades of service in this county, and she meets every qualification that we set. Every restriction. She has a doctorate. She has central office experience. How can we tell someone who's been that dedicated in our system, has worked every job, has been a principal, has been an assistant principal, has been a coordinator? How can we tell someone like that, well, you missed the deadline, and so off you go? That doesn't just send a message to Dr. Harrison. That sends a message to all of our faculty. And that's something that we need to realize. So I say we start from the ground up. If we need to. If we don't need to, I say that we interview all 11 qualified candidates who felt as though that we were important enough to them to apply to our system. Thank you.
Mr. Graham? All right, seeing no other discussion? I'm sorry, Ms. Hayes.
May I? If I can talk, I'm losing my voice. I usually don't say much at meetings, especially if something has already been stated. No reason to state it again. We had a deadline of February the 24th, I believe. Deadlines matter. Everyone else in the room knows that deadlines matter. Kate can tell you a deadline matters to get his application into college. Students have tests. They have term papers due. They have applications to colleges. You work in a professional world, you have a deadline to meet. February 24th. On March the 15th, we received an application from a Dr. Linda Cash. I looked at it and I thought, okay, this is kind of strange. So that's 2 weeks or more, 10 days at least. Read through all of her credentials. Impressive. It's just a shame she didn't meet the deadline. I mean, she was way past the deadline. The next day, we get an email from Dr. Cash titled Timeline. I read through it once. I thought, oh my gosh. I read through it again. My takeaway was that was extremely unprofessional. It was disrespectful to the candidates who got their information, their applications in on time. She knew about the job. She had been contacted by Dr. Grissom. She chose not to apply based on a rumor. In her email, she stated the unusual contract, the way the outgoing director, and just a formality. I don't know who she's talking to, but I took that as like, listen, I don't talk to any of these people to deliberate a vote before a meeting. I don't talk behind, we do this in public. This was an unprofessional, disrespectful, and accusatory email. I don't do drama. Don't do it well at all. Way too much. Deadlines matter. You're a director of a school system. Deadlines matter. 24/7, you are on. And you're spinning plates. I got all I needed to know right there. I am sorry that Dr. Harrison didn't make the deadline. Dr. Grissom talked to her and said she was having trouble with the online. She goes, you could have called me. We would have walked you through it. How bad do you want the job? The job was posted. There was a deadline set. Deadlines matter. And if she was recruited by board members outside of the window of our closure on applications, bad form. Bad form. I don't do business that way. Thank you, Chairman Brewer.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Mr. Johnson, you had your light on, and I skipped by you. I'm sorry. Did you have something?
No, sir. I was just getting prepared if we wanted to vote.
Oh, okay. All right. Mr. Lacy.
Like I said, everybody pretty knows what I think. You know, we're talking about a deadline. On 3/20, we were supposed to start interviewing candidates. We're not even doing our own deadline. We're past our deadline. We're supposed to be interviewing candidates. I've talked to 4 candidates personally this weekend. We've got some good candidates, but how many candidates that didn't apply felt like this was something wasn't just quite right? Just seems like everything we've tried to do. First off, we eliminated every principal in our county that had a doctorate. Principals that done an exceptional job, they wanted to apply, and we pulled the rug out from underneath them. I think anybody with any common sense probably wouldn't have applied to our director search. I probably wouldn't have myself. What's to say if, like I said, I think Dr. Cash was pretty smart. Like I said, I'm not just a fan on Dr. Cash. I think Dr. Weeks is an exceptional candidate. But I will say I talked to Dr. Cash for about 1 hour and 8 minutes Saturday. I think she's brilliant as far as curriculum goes. She's extremely smart. But my deal is, I think this whole thing has been ruined. I mean, the whole process has been kind of a sham. 3/20, we were supposed to be interviewing candidates. I think we need to redo this. I really think we need to redo this whole thing and put the word out there, give it a week, 2 weeks. Anybody that's truly interested in this job, please apply. People would love to have our job, this job that pays $210,000 a year. I assume we would pay that to the next director. Who would not want to apply and have a true chance at getting this job? I know my kids, your kids, I mean, everything we do, first time I met Mr. Wise, he said everything we do is about the kids. Everything that we do should be for the best interest of the kids. I really would think it'd be a great idea to open the search up for a week, 2 weeks. We're going to have to change our calendar, our deadlines, and let's do this the right way. And whoever gets this job in the future, they won't have any cloud over their head that they didn't do this the right way. Let them get that job without having everybody in the background say this didn't go quite right. There was way too much drama. I really think that's the best thing to do, is to open it up. But like I said, I think Dr. Cash, I think she was smart for not applying. We forget that the TSBA shot down every person. It's kind of like they kind of tainted the whole process. 9 or 10 candidates didn't qualify because of Google searches and stuff that they couldn't tell us in an open meeting. I wouldn't want to be put in that system either. Just really wish we would open this up, and whoever, whether that would be anybody in this category, that when they get this job, they're not going to be criticized because they didn't get it the right way.
Ms. Lacy, Mr. Graham.
Yeah. When we're talking about bad form, I think it's bad form for a recruiting agency to send out letters to candidates telling them that they're no longer up for consideration when we've not discussed any of them. All of the applicants that TSBA deemed qualified, other than the two that would have been presented, one withdrew, the remainder of them received correspondence saying that they were no longer being considered. So I think we're already in bad form where that goes. And then, once again, the deadline is not a Sumner County Schools or school board deadline. We didn't set it. There's no policy. There's no written policy. That was a deadline that TSBA set. And it's likely that they set it so that they could have time to Google the candidates and give us a report.
Mr. Graham, Mr. King?
Yeah, I'm just, here's what would have happened. If we had complained, some of us up here would have complained, we're frustrated. We have just one candidate. There's just one recommendation, one candidate, and we got on Facebook and we posted a bunch of stuff. Shame on them we only have one candidate. A whole host of people would come at us and come at me and say, well, you should have gone and recruited a candidate yourself. And I know that for a fact because that's what we were told when we were all voting on a search firm. We were told, you know what, if you don't like the TSBA, we're all adults in the room. You can go and solicit your own search firm. In fact, how about get a portfolio of search firms, bring them to the board, and then make a motion to add them to the agenda. Have those people show up, and let's add them to the agenda, and see if we can get them to give a presentation for us. That is the stuff that people were saying. And so to criticize a board member for doing his or her due diligence to recruit candidates when clearly the TSBA did not do their job to recruit candidates, I find that to be, chiding someone for doing their job. I don't appreciate that. The goal here is to find the best candidates that we can find. And I'm hearing a lot of petty arguments for denying a very qualified candidate an interview. And the only reason that I can come up with is because she's great, and she will be competitive, and she will be tough. Some people don't like her as a candidate because she threatens maybe another candidate. I don't think that's a reason to deny an interview to her or to any candidate. We need the competition. And I'll tell you what, this whole thing about a rumor, if we deny Dr. Cash, that's just going to make the rumor much, much stronger. I guarantee it. So if we don't allow this, it's going to look bad. The community has spoken. They want to hear from these candidates. They want to hear an interview. And I just want to implore all the board members to
Mr. Chairman, let's move on.
I'm sorry, point of order?
Yeah, point of order.
I am still speaking.
Mr. King has the floor.
Back to this deadline business. We're breaking our deadline right now, like Andy said, like I said earlier. And if deadlines matter, then by golly, we better interview someone right now. Should we make a motion to interview somebody? I mean, that's what our timeline says. We're deviating from the timeline. We're going rogue here, folks. We're going out. We're changing the rules in the middle of the game. But yet one person suggests one rule change and they don't like that. If we're going to be serious about deadlines and we want to set an example for students, then why are we even doing this tonight? Why did we open it up for additional candidates to interview? That doesn't make sense. If we're all about deadlines, we need to interview tonight. We need to offer our contract on April 3rd and appoint the director on April 4th. that's, if we're going to be serious about deadlines, then let's get serious about deadlines. The problem is we've already pivoted. And I want to thank our board chairman for making the change, for seeing the, what the community, the community was frustrated that we had, that the TSBA result was not acceptable, and he decided to open it up for additional candidates. We're already pivoting, we're already deviating from the process. I don't know if it requires us to go back to the drawing board like board member Graham said, but you know, I think we can do something tonight. I think we can make this work tonight and get all of these candidates that deserve an interview to get an interview. Thank you.
My thoughts is I guess the main motion is to invite 9 candidates to be interviewed. Is that correct?
We're discussing the amendment.
The amendment to add, if we don't add Dr. Cash and Ms. Harrison, how many of the 9 candidates do you think will accept our invite? They're going to say this is a sham. They already know who they want. They clearly know who they want. They're trying to eliminate the best and the highest quality candidates. I would say, well, we may get 2 or 3 out of those 9 that'll actually want to apply. And then people are going to criticize us as a whole, this board, that we've already determined what they want. They're all watching by live stream. Every candidate is watching. Are they going to want to open themselves up to this? Why would they want to drive 2 hours, 10 hours to come here for an outcome that they think might be already predetermined? Please be fair. Please open this up. I think it's the right thing to do.
Mr. Lacey? All right, let's go for the vote. Mr. Johnson, we'll do a roll call.
Yes, sir. Just to make sure everybody knows where we're at, we are voting on the amendment, and this amendment it's a motion to amend Mr. Daniels' original motion to include all qualified candidates regardless of the deadline. So this would essentially add Pamela Harrison and Linda Cash into the previously stated candidate pool. And with that, Ms. Hayes? Mr. Lancaster?
Yes.
Ms. Andrews? No. Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Hawkins?
No.
Mr. Daniels?
No.
Mr. Wise?
No.
Mr. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Gregory?
No.
Mr. Lacey?
Yes.
Chairman Brewer?
No.
Motion fails 7-4.
All right, we're back to the main motion of Mr. Daniels. Mr. Johnson, could you restate that motion for us?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make another amendment on the main motion. I move that we invite just 2 candidates from the pool, Mr. Danny Weeks and Dr. Danny Weeks and Dr. Linda Cash as our additional interview candidates.
Mr. King, it's already been voted that the board does not accept Ms. Cash.
Well, that was for 11. That included Pamela Harris as well.
Well, either one of them. I mean, the board just voted not to interview them, so you're asking for Ms. Cash to be.
That's right.
So we can't do that. It's already been voted down.
Okay.
Mr. Lancaster. We're on the original motion.
I'd like to amend that motion as well, but if we're going to invite 9 people to interview, that's going to take some time, correct? I mean, call 9 people and schedule interviews and everything else. I want to make a motion, since Ms. Hawkins said that, she would be for it except for Dr. Cash, except for the email that we received today from our attorney. So if we've got time to call and schedule 9 people to come here and everything else, that's going to take some time. I make a motion, we extend for 1 week, since we have a cloud of uncertainty from candidates.
Let me respectfully interrupt.
Sure.
That motion was made in the last meeting to extend the time limit and it was voted down.
That was to extend the TSBA deadline, correct?
That's our deadline. We've been referring to it as TSBA deadline, but this board voted on that deadline. That is a board deadline. And it was already, Mr. King made the motion. I think Mr. Lacy seconded it. It was voted down 7-3. Mr. Graham wasn't on the board there. The only way that that can be brought back up is by the prevailing party. It would have to be one of the 7. So that's an illegal motion. We can't do that. So we're back to the main
No,
motion.
my motion was not to extend the timeline.
The
If that-
motion was to add 2 people, and one of which.
No, I'm talking back at the last meeting. My motion was
To extend the timeline.
not extend the timeline. It was, well, it was to extend the deadline, but it was,
Exactly. So that's been voted down, and it can only.
so are we going to vote on are we going to interview candidates tonight?
No, we're not going to interview candidates.
So we're going to extend the deadline, right?
We already did that when we looked at spring break. We extended it then.
We did?
Yes, we did.
How did we
I have
do
not
that, sir?
received an updated timeline.
That's where we are. So we're back to the main motion. Mr. Lacy, I'm sorry.
How did we extend the timeline already? We did it in a board meeting?
We did it in a board meeting. We discussed it, and get some help on Mr. Johnson.
Just to clarify, when you adopted your timeline, you set the 2 weeks following spring break as your interview period. So you're still within your interview window.
I thought he said that we extended it during the spring break.
No, I believe the chairman misspoke.
We had it during spring break.
We changed it to the 2 weeks after spring break. So we're still within our timeline.
Well, I'm still confused on Mr. King's amendment. You're telling him he can't make an amendment, but he didn't make the same amendment that we just voted on. Is there a rule that we follow that says you can't make a difference?
Yes, sir. He included one of the candidates that we just voted down.
Yeah, but we voted it down in a quantity of 2. Now he's doing it as a 1, I believe,
No,
right?
he did. He
Mr.
did
King?
2 candidates. He did Danny Weeks and he did Linda Cash.
Well, Danny Weeks is already in the thing.
Well, yeah, exactly. But Linda Cash had already been voted down, so we can't bring that back up again. Once again, we're back on the main motion. Mr. Graham.
Yeah, yeah, because I'm the new guy. Can you tell me where I can find the written policy on this timeline in our board docs?
I believe we can pull that policy up. Can we pull that policy up, Mr.?
I would love to have a copy.
Yeah, we can get you that.
The timeline, I'm sorry. The timeline that I have is,
Mr. Graham still has the floor.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I accidentally hit the button. And I'm not referring to the flyer or the brochure. I'm saying a Board of Education policy, a written policy on how this is supposed to go down, because I don't think it exists.
So if everybody will recall, during your February meeting, you actually voted and amended your policy, and the policy is, hang on, let me get to that window. So in February, you passed an amendment to your policy. Is this the right one? Sorry guys, Board Docs is being stubborn.
5.801.
Yeah, it's 5.801, that's correct. So you passed an amendment to policy 5.801, which is your director of schools recruitment and selection policy. So yes, that's the policy in question.
Just so I'm clear, in February, Mr. King made a motion to extend the deadline for a week, right? I believe it was a week. This was before the March 7th study session where we only ended up with 1 finalist. But since he made that motion and it was voted on in February, now that we have 1 finalist and our board attorney says, hey, we can extend it, we could make a motion and extend our timeline to include additional candidates. We can't do that. But based on information we didn't even have when we voted on the amendment in February.
Robert's Rules of Order states that that the prevailing party has to bring a motion up. So Mr. King made the motion, it failed. Only the prevailing party can bring that motion back to the board. That's not a legal thing, that's a Robert's Rules of Order thing. So he didn't have the whole scope and purport of that. But it cannot be brought back up unless it's one of the 7 that voted against it.
Well, can I move we suspend the rules and consider that?
No.
That's a legal Robert's Rules of Order motion.
No, you can suspend the rules on, you have a policy that says you can suspend the rules, but that's not a Robert's Rules of Orders.
Okay. I just know, again, we can, the board can do what we want to do. We are the board. This is our person to hire. But now we're saying we have handcuffed ourselves, shot ourselves in the foot in this whole scenario, and a quality candidate is not going to be considered, and a candidate that I've had teachers and everybody else come and tell me, please interview this person. I now have to say, I'm sorry, we shot ourselves in the foot in February. Now we can't do that. And the person that 400 people in a survey of 575 said, please interview this person. I got to tell them, sorry, we shot ourselves in the foot. But if that's what we got to do, then I guess that's what we got to do.
That's not Chairman's rule. That's Robert's Rules of Order rules. So we're back to the main motion. Mr. Johnson, call the roll.
Yes, sir. Just to read the main motion so that everybody's clear on what we're voting on. This is a motion to offer an interview to all 9 candidates, which is Teresa Anderson, Kim Barnum, Randy Days.
Mr. Chairman, can I still make an amendment?
Go for it.
I move that we start over this process, the search process, open it up to new, make a fresh start, open it up to all new candidates, go back to the drawing board. And so I move that we begin the search process starting this week, and we develop a new timeline.
Second. Mr. King, that would in essence be the same motion as extending it. So you're trying to extend it not just 1 week, but extend it somewhere else.
I want us to start a new director search starting today.
Okay. The TSBA. All right, so you got a motion and a second. Discussion?
I second.
We got your second. Mr. Grant.
Yeah, I mean, that was, from what I understand, that's one of the options that Mr. Presnell gave us in the email today, was starting over, open up an application period. I mean, honestly, Dr. Cash aside, when we were presented with such a small pool, we probably should have done that anyway. But I'm also reading through the policy. I know, so we have a board policy. It says, if the board chooses to conduct a search to fill a position, the board shall initially develop the following: a job description, which you guys did, a timeline. I think the timeline was developed by TSBA. I don't think this board has ever developed and voted on a timeline.
24th of January it was voted on.
That was developed by this board, or that was developed by TSBA?
That was developed by this board. That was voted on. TSBA helped us put it together, presented it to the board voted on it, and that is a board decision.
The board did not initially develop anything.
The board worked with TSBA, the chairman worked with TSBA to develop that timeline and presented it to the board. So
I respectfully state, though, the board shall initially develop the following, and then number 2 is timeline. So the board never developed a timeline.
The board did develop a timeline, but let's go back to where we are. We're on the motion there to extend, to start over,
Which is pertinent to the fact that no timeline was ever generated by this board.
Doesn't matter what happened in the past. We got a new motion on the floor to start all over again anyway. So.
Well, that's part of my discussion, sir, is the fact that if we don't have a timeline and we start over, we're doing the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lacy.
Where's Mr. Presnell at today? It'd be great if he was here where we could ask him questions.
He's actually in an airplane headed out of town somewhere.
I think it'd be really important on a night like tonight to have him here. Very important. Like I said, please open this up. Let the next director not have a cloud over his head, please.
and seconded. Discussion's been made. Mr. Johnson, call the roll, please.
Yes, sir. Ms. Hayes?
No.
Mr. Lancaster? Ms. Andrews? Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Hawkins? Mr. Daniels?
No.
Mr. Wise?
No.
Mr. Graham?
Absolutely.
Mr. Gregory?
No.
Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
Chairman Brewer? Motion fails 7-4.
Motion fails 7-4. We're back to the original motion. Mr. Johnson, call the roll on the original motion.
Yes, sir. Ms. Hayes? So this is the original motion. The motion on the floor is to offer an interview to all 9 candidates, which is Teresa Anderson, Ken Barnum, Randy Days, Jerry Gibson, Jesse Jackson, Scott Langford, Scott Paul, John Tucker, and Danny Weeks that met the search criteria and application deadline approved by the board. And with that, Ms. Hayes.
Yes.
Mr. Lancaster. Ms. Andrews.
Yes.
Mr. King.
I abstain.
Ms. Hawkins.
Yes.
Mr. Daniels.
Yes.
Mr. Wise.
Yes.
Mr. Graham.
Abstain.
Mr. Gregory.
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Abstain.
Chairman Brewer.
Yes.
All right, motion carries 7-4.
All right. We'll get in touch with the candidates, and we'll get back to the board once we get that taken care of. We'll probably shoot for next week to stay within our timeline. So we'll be back in touch with you and let you know what day that we can get everybody together. Next item on the agenda is discussion or action regarding math textbook adoption committee recommendation. Is there a motion? Motion to approve by Ms. Hayes. Need a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Daniels. Any discussion? Mr. King.
Yeah, I'd like to move to postpone this. This has really been an interesting journey for me, and as perhaps it's been the same for many of the other candidate or other board members. I'm really struggling with how to vote on this with the math curriculum. I've done a lot of research on it. I've talked to a lot of teachers. In fact, I went and spent some time at the central office speaking with Miss Miller and Miss Madana, and looking at the curriculums, going through them, actually physically going through the curriculums. And I don't know, I'm still getting a lot of feedback from teachers that they are not happy about it. I'm getting a lot of feedback that they're not 100%. They feel like the committee, perhaps there was pressure among some of the committee members to go a certain way and things like that. I'm also concerned about a couple of the curriculums themselves, not because they're not bad products. I've looked at some of these, and I'm not a math guy. I can't speak for a math curriculum. The ones I looked at looked like the companies offer a good product, but then I looked at the companies themselves, and it really gave me some reservations. I'm very concerned about Eureka with Great Minds. I'm very concerned about iReady. And while their product looks good, we're going to be giving them a lot of money. They both are partners with CASEL, which is the collaboration of academic social emotional learning. And that organization, to me, is now, it doesn't appear that any of their content is in our curriculum for Tennessee, and that was done deliberately. But they're doing it in other curriculums that they're promoting to other states, and I believe that those curriculums are harming children. And so for me, it's giving those companies money to me is a conflict of conscience. I just want to share a couple of things that both of these companies partner with CASEL.
Mr. King, let me respectfully guide you in that you've made a motion, and Robert's Rules of Order tells us to make the motion and give a brief description if necessary, but it's not to become a speech. That's the wording out of the book. So
It's my understanding that every topic, members are allowed two 10-minute speeches.
We haven't got to your discussion point yet. So you made the motion. We need the second, and then we get into discussion, and then you can go from there.
All right. I motion that we postpone this until further investigation.
Okay. Need a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Graham. Now discussion. Mr. Graham? Well, I'll go back to you. You can finish
Okay.
up what you were doing.
Yeah, so these companies partner with Castle. Castle, I just want to read a couple of things from them. An equity lens is important when developing SEL standards, particularly to ensure that the standards do not unintentionally reinforce implicit power and privilege inequities. It says here below, we examine the cultural and historical context for understanding the relationship between SEL, social emotional learning, and equity, and then explore prospects for equity collaborations to the Castle 5 core competencies. Racial, ethnic, and it says, how did we get here? Situating equity and social emotional learning in a cultural and historical context. Racial, ethnic, and class issues continue to vex American society. Cultural analysis, I don't know what that is, suggests that issues of racism derive largely from an overemphasis on the accumulation of wealth within American culture. Historically, this culture value prompted some to exploit others for personal advancement. White elites promulgated racialized and cultural stereotypes to recruit poor and working whites into a hierarchical economic system that exploited them, but also empowered them to oppress and further exploit people of color. Meanwhile, these stereotypes inculcated within people of color a sense of dehumanization and a willingness to accept marginalized status. That is the Marxist notion of false consciousness. Many current economic, health, and educational inequities can be understood as remnants and variants of this foundational set of political, social, and psychological arrangements. SEL, transformative SEL, includes learning to critically examine root causes of inequity. Dominant U.S. cultural norms promote materialism or acquisitive individualism and orientation associated with health problems and unethical behaviors. These norms are even more problematic when wealth and whiteness are conflated and uncritically accepted as indicators of success. This fosters a sense of white racial entitlement and dominance, as well as negative biases and stereotypes about people of color and those from low-income backgrounds. That is highly dogmatic theory. And yet, these companies that we are going to be purchasing math curriculum from are partnering with this organization and actively putting within their curriculums in other states content that is like what I just read. And so I'm struggling. While these companies might have a good product here, I'm not so sure I can approve the appropriation of funds for those companies. So, and plus, that's one issue. The other issue is I keep getting teachers telling me they're just something's off. So I would like to postpone this and get more of a either look at some other curriculums that are not partnered with companies like Castle, organizations like Castle, and maybe look at some of those curriculums, and just, you know, I've had a lot of, I keep getting emails from teachers saying if we adopt this, we're going in the wrong direction. Now I don't know if they're right or not. I just want to cover some more territory with this. So I move that we postpone this adoption tonight.
Yes, I would just like to say I'm not quite sure which teachers you're speaking to, but I've spoken to several teachers across several schools, across several grade bands, and not one teacher has told me that they've had those concerns that you've shared. I actually asked a teacher specifically, I reached out and would say, hey, do you have any concerns with the math curriculum? and time over time over time, they said no. I asked principals, do you have any concerns with the math curriculum? They all told me no. A very respected teacher, I messaged her. And said yes, liked it. This is what I said. I said, I've asked various teachers about it and they all like it. One teacher said she used to pull stuff from the NY Engage, which is the former name of Eureka. My only concern is that it's because it's from the same company as Wit and Wisdom, and I don't want to go through the pushback from the community and make teachers' jobs even harder than they already are. This teacher responded, honestly, that was a good thing in my opinion. I've been very pleased with Wit and Wisdom. We make a few changes here and there, but my class has done really well with it this year. That's from a Sumner County teacher that is very well respected. I've asked at multiple schools. I've asked elementary, middle, high school. I've asked specific members on the committee. Have there been any issues on the committee? Have you felt in any way that you have been pushed to a specific curriculum? And I was told no. This has been great. We actually feel like they've listened to us. We feel like they've taken our feedback. And then they were allowed to vote on the curriculum that they felt was best for students. These are teachers with boots on the ground. They see these students. They know what the students need. They know what the students are liking. And this is what they have said they want for their students. I will not undermine a committee. I've also been told they want curriculum. And they want it sooner rather than later, because the later that we push it, the less time they have to train on it. And they want to be prepared when schools open in August. I will not vote to delay this, and I hope that you don't either.
Ms. Andrews, Mr. Graham?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not a math guy. It's hard for me to evaluate math curriculum. But we did receive emails to our board email from teachers who seem pretty passionate against what has been recommended to us. But the committee also seemed fairly passionate about what was recommended to us. I would like to delay it just so we can kind of get a pro-cons of the top two in both what the curriculum had to offer and also kind of a cost benefit to know what each one costs. Because if number 2 on the list is like a hair under number 1 and it costs 30% less, to me that's something we should be looking at too. So that's why I would vote to delay it at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. All right, ready for the vote? Mr. King?
Yeah, I mean, I've had teachers express to me that were on the committee that they felt that there was pressure among committee members to go a certain way. I've had teachers tell me that were on the committee. And I've had teachers say there were issues with the curriculum, some of the curriculums. And then I've had some that have said that they like it. And when I looked at it, when I went to the central office and looked at the books, I mean, to me, they looked like good products. And I was impressed. But again, we're talking about tax money going to pay companies that are invested in some pretty aberrant, dogmatic theories, and they're putting that onto students in other states. That's a concern of mine. And so I mean, look, I just can't. I'm not at a place where I can 100% vote either way. I'd like to be.
Mr. King, Mr. Lacy?
I think this week I thought we all received an email from a teacher that felt like this would be taking a step backwards for the high school math if we adopted big ideas. Like I said, I emailed a lot of the teachers in my district in math. I felt like it would be imprudent of me to ask teachers that teach math what they thought. In elementary, absolutely got Eureka nobody wanted Eureka. Everybody wanted iReady. They felt like it prepared kids for TCAT better. They felt like everything to do with iReady helped prepare kids for TCAT. To me, that sounds like that's what we'd want to do, is prepare kids for TCAT. Middle school, it was pretty unanimous. Everybody wanted iReady. Everybody wanted iReady. They wanted to make sure that we got all the videos and the online programs to go along with that. In the high schools, I mean, it was pretty mixed. It was 50-50. They didn't want big ideas. They felt like it kind of dumbed down our math in high school. And the equal amount of people said they would rather have Savas. They felt like it was a much better curriculum. So that's what I've got to say. At this point, I really don't feel comfortable voting for everything all at one time.
Mr. Johnson?
All right, just make sure everybody's on the same sheet of music. We are voting on the motion to postpone adoption for further investigation. And with that, Ms. Hayes? No. Mr. Lancaster? Ms. Andrews? No. Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Hawkins?
No.
Mr. Daniels?
No.
Mr. Wise?
No.
Mr. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Gregory?
No.
Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
Chairman Byrd?
No.
Motion fails
Back to the
8-3.
main motion of approval of it as it is. Let's go over the vote while you're voting.
Yes, sir. Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Lancaster?
Yes.
Ms. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Abstain.
Ms. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Graham?
Abstain.
Mr. Gregory?
Yes.
Mr. Lacy?
Abstain.
Chairman Byrd?
Yes.
Motion carries 8-3.
All right, next item on the agenda, discussion and interaction regarding dress code committee recommendation. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by
Second.
Ms. Andrews.
Please let me be on the record as seconding this motion for my daughter's sake. I was trying to motion to approve.
All right, discussion. Your light on, you
Oh, heck, I was ready to go ahead and vote.
ready to go. All right.
You know, I think the one thing I would like to ask, if I'm allowed, and I meant to put my light on, is the speaker that was on the committee, I didn't understand the sports question. Can I specifically ask her what she...
Ms. Cruz, would you like to restate that question?
So, yeah, come up here and... I was wanting to write it down and, you know, we had...
On the parent comments from the survey that was posted, there were multiple comments regarding a hair policy for sports. There is a discrepancy among sports policies, and it's...
Yeah, that's what she had said it was not dress code.
Yeah, I said it wasn't dress code, but I was making a point that it was mentioned, and I was hoping that the board would consider
That would
addressing
be a
it.
separate policy for sports
Yes.
specific.
Yes.
I have gotten an email from a parent or grandparent about soccer and hair requirement or something,
Yes.
so I just want to make sure. But
Thank you.
as far as this goes, and I wrote down, since I'm on the spot here, I had somebody else ask me about the weapons, but then I had a person that we have an archery club and they have t-shirts. So, you know, it's like, well, if we say, well, we're not going to have weapons on a shirt, well, then you have the archery club and then they've got a bow and arrow on their shirt. Then, so I do think violence probably gets that. I mean, if you've got a picture of something, I think we can get that. And the other one, the medical reasons and the medical masks, the way I read it is it says items that hide any part of the face except as a religious observance or medical reasons, and then it says examples include but are not limited to medical masks. So I think it's just saying that is an example of a medical reason that you would have a covering of your face. So I think we're good there. I mean, main thing is, you know, we're getting away from a ruler for females or males, either one, and it's, as my daughter says, you know, I would like to maybe amend the policy, the motion in one, and I know I seconded it, but to add a timeline where we revision it, where we look at this again in maybe how do we do that, Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have a motion to just amend the policy that says, so what we have in board docs, what you're looking at is we have a dress code policy, and so we took the text of this and put it in our dress code policy. One thing that I want to note that's in the dress code policy, and that's really the only difference than the sheet and presentation that you guys had at the study session, is that this policy would not apply to Merrill Hyde and R.T. Fisher. We specifically noted that at the bottom of the policy. Those two schools have very specific dress codes, and that's something that we would want to keep. But I would, my suggestion would be that you would say, I'd like to amend the policy to say that we'll review this however many years y'all want to do it.
Okay.
The maker of the motion, what I would do is the maker of the motion, you seconded it. Maker of the motion puts
Are you
in that
okay
he'll
with
be
putting-
reviewed.
a review
reviewed every 2 years, or however you want to do it.
2 might be too soon. I mean, maybe.
Every 5 years.
I don't know.
So-
I don't know how quick
So
trends.
here's what I think would maybe solve this, is that for us to approve the policy with a review in 1 year and then a periodic review as necessary.
I'm good with that. I'll
Because
second
I
that.
think,
With that, you change it.
I second that.
Mr. Johnson, did you get that? Okay.
And this will go into effect 2023 year, but we're also going to say, hey, principals, if you want to, we're going to allow principals to, if they want to, go ahead and test the waters, so to speak.
Phase it in, that's right.
Is that correct? Okay, let's vote.
Ms. Hawkins? Ms. Hawkins?
This is how this reads to me. Number 4, students cannot wear items that hide any part of the face. Examples include medical masks. That's conflicting and confusing. Can you wear a medical mask or not?
I would think you would know.
Except as.
I think that's what I said.
Examples include, but are not, these are examples of items that hide any part of the face. Examples include medical masks.
I think that should state non-medical masks. I think it's just, I think it should say non-medical mask, because then they cannot come to school wearing some type of cover, mask and so forth. So I think if we can add, without objection, I think if we can just add non in front of medical, we'll solve that problem.
Otherwise it's conflicting.
Yes, ma'am.
Totally conflicting with what it's.
See, I read that as the example of the exception, but.
No. I read it, if you break it apart, students cannot wear items that hide any part of the face, including medical masks.
So we're saying, I'm sorry.
Kind of bullet pointed. Bullet.
Examples of items that hide any part of the face include, but are not limited to, medical masks.
Should say non-medical.
That's conflicting with.
I would like to make a motion.
Well, I just said, if without objection, if
Without-
if everyone on the board is okay with that, I don't think we have to vote. But is there anybody that disagrees with us adding it to say non-medical?
It's just confusing because there's a bullet point or where it says examples include, and it's hard to know exactly what examples, what that's pointing back to as an example.
Items that hide any part of the face.
Right, but then it says except as religious observance or medical reasons, and then it.
Oh, but are bandanas religious observance or medical reasons?
I guess not. I guess.
Can I talk? Yes.
So the intent is that you can wear a medical mask to school if you so choose. If we need to clear up that wording so it's clarified, happy to do that. The intent is not to tell anyone they cannot wear a medical mask.
I think we should
Obviously, it needs to be clarified because we're all debating it.
So
yeah,
can we just strike medical mask right there and then do a second bullet point? It said medical masks are fine. Are allowed. Jeremy. Okay, thank you.
Can I make one comment on that, just in regards to medical masks?
Are you
Is-
still in queue, Ms. Andrews?
Can I jump in real quick?
I am, but I will yield to him.
Thank you.
For his
My
one
question
point.
on the medical
For one
masks,
point.
and the only reason I'm asking this is there are, during COVID, there were a lot of masks that were available with sports teams and other things, and my question is, if someone were to wear a medical mask and it wasn't for a medical reason, yes, so that's where I'm wondering if non-medical masks, if we amend it, or if we add the example, I don't know how it needs to be phrased right there, but my point is, I think we want to allow people to wear medical masks if there's a medical reason, not just throw a mask on because represent their sports. Does that
That's the
make sense?
intent
Yeah.
of the policy,
That's the way I
yes.
would clarify it, because I think that's the intent.
That's also, sorry to interrupt, but that would be something we could address in our one-year review.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, thank you. Okay, so I think we did clear up that, and then with the dress code. I'll also go ahead and just touch on sports uniforms, because I have thought about that. I've seen the comments, and I think possibly with it, there's one particular issue that I know that is there, but when we talk about actual dress code when it comes to sports, and I've had kids that have played a variety of sports, and I know, parents will say, well, that sport, those shorts don't meet dress code, or that top doesn't meet dress code. However, you also have to understand the confines and the necessities for safety within the sport. For instance, my son runs cross country. If you're not familiar with cross country, you may not understand why they wear a singlet and and shorter shorts, but their bodies have to be able to breathe. And when they're doing certain races, if their bodies aren't able to breathe, that can actually become a medical issue for runners and so forth. Additionally, a lot gets said about cheerleaders and the length of their skirts. Well, if you're familiar with cheering and you understand stunting, you also have to understand that in order for them to move appropriately and not be injured, they have to have those types of things. So I think it can be addressed if they are wearing those uniforms to school, then within those guidelines, they need to be within dress code. When they are within the instructional period of the day, students should be within dress code. Outside of that, when they are in their sports, then it needs to be within what is for the safety of them to be able to perform that sport to the best ability. I'll just address it that way. I want to say thank you so much for the time and effort that's been put into the dress code. There have been a number of revisions of taking feedback and tweaking it and trying our best to make something make sense and something that makes going to school easier for our students, for our parents that have to shop for those clothes, and really honestly for our teachers as well. We do not want them spending their days policing the halls and being like, is that too short? We want them in the classrooms. We want them loving on our students. So I will ask parents to recognize the effort that's been done here, and for students to recognize the effort. We're gonna evaluate the policy in a year. If in a year it comes back and our principals are saying, hey, this part is giving us a lot of issues and we need to change it, it will get changed. So just ask that to, just be respectful and try to stay within these guidelines. I know especially teenagers like to push, but let's try not to, is what I'm going to respectfully ask. And then also, with our schools, give our kids the benefits of the doubt. We want our kids in classes, and so let's figure out a way that we can partner with them with this. I also agree with Mr. Lancaster that the intent of this policy is to take effect for all schools August of this year, so that principals and so forth can get it in their handbooks, and the parents can be prepared. However, I agree. I do not see if a principal wants to pilot it and wants to kind of test the waters and see and see what some of the issues may be, or I don't see any problem with the principal making that decision. But also, if a principal says no, we're going to stick with what we have and we're going to wait till the next year, I'm respectful of that, and I hope that the community will be respectful of that as well.
Ms. Andrews? Ready for the vote? Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir. So the motion on the floor is to approve the policy with a review in 1 year and a periodic review as necessary. The dress code policy will take effect in August. And with that, Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Lancaster? Ms. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Gregory? Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
Chairman Brewer?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is discussion and interaction regarding reduction in retainage for Liberty Creek project. Is there a motion?
Motion approved.
Motion approved by Mr. Gregory.
Second.
Second by Mr. King. Any discussion? Mr. Andrews.
I've just got one question.
Mr. Daniels.
Oh, you. Based
You
on
answered to it.
based on this payment, how much of a balance do we have left in retainage? It looks like it's a little over 2 million, based on what I'm looking at. I just
Yeah,
balanced
this
the
drawdown,
finishes.
you know, Mr. Daniels, this is standard procedure based on the law. So once you have substantial completion signed off by the architect, there are specific time periods within the next year or so that you have to release funds that are being held in retainage. And so we're just complying with that. It's a mechanism to protect the district and taxpayers. So if there's any warranty work or anything that needs to be done post substantial completion, you're still retaining a good portion of their money for specific periods of time.
Thank you.
Mr. Daniels. Mr. Lancaster.
So we have 2 million still to pay? Okay, because the question I always get is, where are we at on the sewer?
This is separate.
So this does not even have to do anything with that?
It's not doing that. This is the building.
Okay. So, all right, that's the question that's always asked me, and I'm like, I have no idea. But, so.
Mr. Lancaster. Just
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Lancaster? Ms. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels? Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Gregory?
Yes.
Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
Chairman Brewer?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is discussion and interaction regarding amendments to the general purpose budget. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved, Ms. Andrews, second by Mr. Daniels. I got him right. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is discussion and interaction regarding amendments to the federal budget. Is there a motion? Motion approved. I got Mr. Lancaster. You want second? Second by Mr. Gregory. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay, Mr. King's opposed. Motion carries 10-1. Next item on the agenda is discussion and interaction regarding study session items. Mr. Johnson, do you have something that's coming up?
Yes, sir. We will be on our continuing journey on policy 4403, reconsideration of instructional materials and textbooks, and then we will also be discussing the discussion regarding a reconsideration request on the appeal for the library book, Perks of Being a Wallflower, which we did not get to at the last study session. We also have some policies that we're working through with staff that you may see.
All right. Any discussion on it? Mr. Lancaster.
2 things. One, you know what I'm going to ask. We need to always have a third grade update because there has been some.
Special call board meeting, state board meeting.
Okay.
That's just been announced, so we're expecting something to change.
Yeah. And 2, I had someone reach out about our foreign student policy, foreign exchange student policy, and that we needed to look at that because I have no idea. But basically,
This is a long story to that.
Okay.
We'll be happy to.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're not doing what everybody else is doing or whatever.
Long history about that.
All right. Next item on the agenda is communication from board members. Ms. Hayes, we'll start with you. All right. Mr. Lancaster?
What month is March, right? Yeah. It was a fun month. It was a busy month. I got to go and read to a lot of kindergarten classes. That was fun. think I read to every kindergarten class in my district minus maybe 4. So that was fun. A lot of them got to meet Mr. Wolf, who's alter ego. Other than that, I think this was March. Man, this is months running together. But a couple of weeks ago, we had the Sumner Celebrates Music at Gallatin High School, and I went to that, and it was awesome to see all of our elementary school students performing. Basically a select group from each elementary school came together, practiced all day, and then performed in one large ensemble. They had a choir. They were beating on a 5-gallon bucket, and they had whatever those recorders are, and hey, we got one at the house. I just don't know what it is. Yeah, but it was great just to see the kids, see the community come together, and we've got FFA convention competition going on right now, and I know Liberty Creek's 8th graders are in Washington D.C. right now, so just hope and pray for safe travels for all of them, and best of luck to our FFA competitors, and that's it.
Just like Ms. Andrews.
Yeah, I just want to say happy World Down Syndrome Day. Let's make sure that we celebrate all of those exceptional students in our district. They're not different, they're exceptional. So just want to give a shout out. Also want to remember, and it is competition season. It is our club competition season. So a lot of our DECA members just competed in state. They did exceptionally well. They represented Sumner County so well. I know Beach, I think, took 81 students to the state competition, and 48 will be going to nationals. Next week, FCCLA travels to state. FFA is currently doing their state competition. We have Maddie Rodell from Beach High School that's currently competing to be the state president for FFA. So I wish Maddie all the way the best of luck. Lillian Young from Beach is also competing to be a state officer. I can't remember which her state officer position is, but we great representation from Sumner County across the state in each of these organizations, and it's very proud to be from Sumner County and just the work that's happening. And thank you to all the advisors that are choosing to travel with those students and giving those students the opportunity. Those are some of my favorite memories from high school, is going to those types of state competitions and the bonds that were made. And those aren't possible unless we have adults in our district that take time away from their families to go and spend time with our kids. So I just want to say thank you for that. And I have a feeling that Mr. Daniels will probably say this, but it is also spring musical time. So, and the plant sales are also coming up. So it's a great time to support our schools in Sumner County. Everybody, it seems like they're doing something. So check out the websites of your local school and see where you can help support them.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Mr. King. All right, Ms. Hawkins.
I just want to continue to lift up the Brooks family after the loss of their daughter at Liberty Creek to a tragic accident during the windstorm. It's just heartbreaking, and I continue to think about them and how hard going forward is in this new normal. So.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins. Mr. Daniels.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Andrews, for mentioning the theater programs. We've got a number of, I know at Gallatin High School they're about to present Beauty and the Beast. I think they're pretty much sold out right now, so maybe you can show up early and hope to stand in the back if you want to go. I believe Beach might be doing Into the Woods. I believe they're doing Into the Woods, and there's a number of other programs or schools that have some pretty big musicals. So it's always a good time to go out and see those kids, perform, musically. We've got some incredibly talented kids in our school district, and it's always great to go and see them. I also wanted to mention at Gallatin High School community, Coach Stevenson passed away earlier this month, and he was one of the coaches when I was there in high school, and as we like to call him, Coach Kickin' Booty during the magazine drive. If you didn't sell a magazine, it wasn't because he didn't push you. So I always remember him and his family and his wife at this time. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Mr. Wise, Mr. Graham.
I'll tell you what, this was a good initiation meeting for me. It feels good to be able to vote on something like the dress code policy that so many people overwhelmingly support. It's kind of depressing, though, when we can't do other things that so many people overwhelmingly support. But that's all I'll say about that right now. I was not aware that Beauty and the Beast is sold out or almost sold out. I do have tickets, so pretty excited about that. But if you still want to help out with that show, they are trying to feed the theater or the chorus department. They're trying to feed the cast before the shows. We're signed up on March 24th, so you can't have that slot. But the shows are March 24th through 25th, the 26th, March 31st through April 1st, and April 2nd. So if anybody wants to help feed the cast or even give them snacks or bottled water, let me know. I've got some contacts that I can put you in contact with. And Liberty Creek High School will be doing All Shook Up. And the lead in that show is a devastatingly handsome young man. So more information to follow on that. And then two more things. I know our teachers are currently cataloging their books inside their classroom, and that is a painstaking process. If you have any time to volunteer with a teacher at your student's school, I do urge you to reach out and see if you can help in that task so they're not trying to do that after hours, and of course not taking away time during the day. And then I think that's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Mr. Gregory?
I'd like to thank Ms. Hayes for bringing that young man to the board and his achievements that he's had. And my wife and I have a nephew who went to school in Portland through the 8th grade and then went to the magnet school, high school. And then I'm not going to take you through his entire journey, but this week, like yesterday, I guess, I get my days mixed up because of time difference. He is a medical doctor in an Army hospital in South Korea, serving his country as in a hospital in South Korea, and educated here in Sumner County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Mr. Lacey?
Said tonight was interesting. Every board member just got an email from a candidate that we disqualified that claims she met the deadline to get her application in, and even Tammy Grisham said she met the deadline, and she would like to know how she needs to move forward legally. And everything we've done is to keep from getting legal issues. So now we've got ourselves into another legal issue. I'd rather not mention her name, but like I said, everything we do, it's like, what are we doing here? But anyways, a good note, I got to go to Riley Gaines, maybe I'm saying her name correctly, but I got to go to an event this weekend that she spoke at, and I guess somebody that comes to our board meeting that's not here normally almost every time the doors are open, he challenged 2 county commissioners to buy books with some of their pay for being county commissioners. So Matt Schoaf and Jeremy Mansfield bought 25 Brave books by Kirk Cameron, As You Grow, And they are donating these to every single elementary school. There's 25 books. So I like to thank them for their gift. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lacy. Ms. Hayes, you do have a comment.
Please, thank you, Chairman Brewer. I apologize for being distracted tonight. I don't usually sit with my phone, but our middle son was sent to the emergency room at Vanderbilt today. Just went in for an eye appointment that he'd been having some trouble in his right eye. See, blurred, could tell the peripheral. Well, they immediately sent him to Vanderbilt emergency room. There was inflammation and extensive peripheral vision loss. So I've just been trying to get updates. He has a tear in his retina, and they're waiting on the CT scan to see if there's something else happening that's going on. So if I have been distracted by that, my phone is because of that. So just preach your prayers.
Thank you. We'll sure lift him up in prayer. Just one final thing. I meant to bring this up when we were on this. If it passed, and it did pass, on the candidates' approval search criteria, please review the questions that you've been that have been legally vetted that also match our search criteria, and submit up to 3 questions from that list to Mr. Johnson and myself that you would like ask of each candidate during the interviews. We will provide a list of the questions to each board member prior to the interviews. If you have a question that you wish to be asked to each candidate that isn't on the list, please submit that to me and Mr. Johnson by close of business on Friday, so we can forward them to Mr. Presnell for legal review prior to placing them on the list of interview questions. And then the interview schedule, including the name and time for each finalist interview, will be shared with the board prior to public meeting notice, as soon as we get that all set up. With that, we're adjourned.